The first time I walked into the tactical briefing room at Naval Station Coronado, I knew I was walking into a firing squad, and not a training one. I mean, you've seen the movies, right? Big mahogany table, screens flashing intel, about 30 pairs of eyes, mostly senior SEALs and intel guys, staring you down, waiting for you to trip up. I was Lieutenant Commander Anya Vance, fresh transfer, and the air was so thick with skepticism you could practically chew it. The main problem sat right at the head of the table, Admiral Thorne. 60-something razor-sharp creases on his uniform, a face that looked like he hadn't laughed since the Berlin Wall fell, and a reputation for crushing careers that didn't align perfectly with his own. He was the kind of guy who didn't just demand respect. He inhaled it. The meeting was supposed to be about some increased submarine activity near the Paracel Reefs. Standard stuff, but Thorne wasn't focused on the maps. He was focused on me. Your father had a call sign too, didn't he, Lieutenant? Thorne's voice cut through the drone of the air conditioning, slow and deliberate, laced with a mockery that didn't quite reach his icy blue eyes. Let's hear yours. The room went dead silent. 40 pairs of eyes swiveled, locking onto me standing near the back wall. It was a joke, a test of my composure, because call signs aren't just given out. They're earned over years of blood and sweat. And mine was a ghost. I didn't flinch. I kept my hands resting loosely at my sides, the kind of stillness that looks easy but feels like holding a perfectly drawn bowstring. I took a slow breath. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold. 4 seconds out, the rhythm my father taught me when I was 6. Before he disappeared. Well? Thorne pressed, leaning back with his arms crossed. We're waiting. Then I spoke, voice low, steady, and amplified just enough by the room's acoustics. It's echo, sir. The word landed like a chunk of lead. Ripples spread through the room, shifting glances, raised eyebrows, but the older guys, the gray beards with hidden scars, they went absolutely still. I saw Commander Reese, a grizzled SEAL sitting in the corner, salt and pepper hair, straighten a fraction. His eyes widened just a millimeter. He knew. Thorne's smile vanished. He uncrossed his arms, leaning forward onto the polished table. Echo, he repeated. It wasn't a question. It was a cold accusation wrapped in disbelief. That's quite a legacy to claim, Lieutenant. Especially for someone who just transferred in 3 days ago. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Everyone knew Echo was the call sign of Captain Marcus Vance, the SEAL team leader who went dark 20 years ago during Operation Sea Dragon. MIA officially. Major Kessler, a lean intel officer sitting next to Thorne, cleared his throat nervously. Sea Dragon was closed as missing in action, Admiral. No body recovered. Some would say desertion, Thorne added quietly, his eyes never leaving mine. Just static on the comms and an empty coordinates grid. My jaw tightened. That was the first crack, the first flicker of the personal rage I had kept locked down for 2 decades. But I didn't take the bait. I just stood there breathing 444. He waved a hand dismissively. Take your seat, Lieutenant Commander. We have actual threats to discuss. I sat down, moving to the empty chair near the back. As I did, my fingers brushed the tactical pen clipped to my laptop bag strap. Not a casual touch, but a precise, 3-finger textbook grip, index extended along the barrel line. Muscle memory doesn't need conscious thought, you know. My laptop screen glowed to life. In the bottom corner, barely visible to anyone but me and the man sitting next to me, a line of text scrolled, Sea Dragon declassified, partial, decryption in progress 12%. Thorne pulled up a map of the Indo-Pacific. All right, let's get to work. Increased submarine activity near the Spratly Shelf. Lieutenant Commander Vance is our new intel liaison, Thorne announced, gesturing to me without looking. Fresh eyes. Let's hear what the textbooks have to say. A ripple of low chuckles followed. I stood and moved to the main screen. Tapping my tablet, I layered my own data over his map. Heat signatures, RF patterns, shipping lane disruptions. The vessels are operating in a grid pattern, I said, my voice clinical. Consistent with SIGINT collection. They're not looking for targets. They're mapping our response times. That's textbook, Graves interrupted without looking up. Give me something operational. I paused for just a beat. The timing, I continued, zooming in on a specific red zone, coincides with a lapse in our satellite coverage. A 14-minute window every third rotation. They know our blind spots. The room went quiet. This time it wasn't dismissive. It was attentive. How do you know that? Thorne's eyes narrowed. I ran the coverage analysis against their movement logs, sir. I pulled up a second screen showing overlapping timelines. They're testing our awareness gaps. Before anyone could process the implications, Thorne cut me off. Where's your source validation? I don't see clearance codes on this data. It's pending, I said, closing my tablet and returning to my seat. I didn't argue. I didn't defend. I just sat back down, fingers moving across the keyboard. The decryption bar ticked upward, 15%. I knew the game. They were testing me, pushing me, waiting for me to crack or overreach. I would do neither. I just kept breathing. 444. 30 minutes into the break, most officers had scattered for coffee. I stayed put, eyes glued to my screen. 23%? Commander Reese approached me, standing close enough so his voice wouldn't carry. You handle yourself well, Lieutenant Commander. His voice was gravelly. Your father. He was a good man. He was, sir. My eyes flickered for a second. Echo wasn't just a call sign. Reese's voice dropped even lower. It was a philosophy. Move quiet. Strike precise. Leave no trace. I'm aware. You carry it well. He paused, studying my posture, the way my fingers rested on the keys. I was on the support team for Sea Dragon. We never stopped looking. Before I could respond, Thorne's voice cut across the room. Commander Reese! A word. The two men stepped out into the hallway, their voices muted but tense. Reese's posture was defensive but firm. They were arguing. Lieutenant Carter, the young intel officer with nervous energy, slid into the seat next to me. He kept his eyes on his own screen but spoke quietly. Your decryption is running slow. The archive has a secondary firewall. I can reroute through a tertiary node, but it'll take another 20 minutes. Do it, I said without looking. Carter's fingers flew across his keyboard. You know they're testing you, right? This whole meeting is about seeing if you'll crack. I know. And you're just going to sit here and take it? I finally looked at him, my eyes calm and steady. Patience, Lieutenant, isn't weakness. It's strategy. He grinned slightly. Roger that. When Thorne and Reese returned, Thorne's face was tight. He moved swiftly to wrap up the meeting. Lieutenant Commander Vance, he demanded, let's see that threat analysis you were working on. I stood and walked to the front. My analysis was sharp, solid, sourced. Halfway through, Kessler interrupted, leaning forward. Where did you get this? These coordinates, this level of detail. This isn't open source. It's from the Sea Dragon archives, I said. The room went cold. Thorne's face hardened. The Sea Dragon archives are sealed. They were partially declassified last year, I countered. I submitted the request 3 months ago. It was approved 2 weeks before my transfer. Even if that's true, Kessler scoffed, you'd need validation codes. You'd need oversight clearance. You'd need... I have it. I pulled up a document on the screen. Official letterhead, clearance stamps, authorization signatures. Everything was in order. Thorne stood slowly. That file has been buried for 20 years. There's a reason it stayed buried. And there's a reason it was declassified, I cut in, my voice calm but with a sudden sharp edge. Because the patterns from Sea Dragon match the patterns we're seeing now. That's speculation, Thorne said. It's analysis. It's reckless. The room was silent, the air heavy with unsaid history. Finally, Thorne sat back down. Fine, show us what you've got. But if this is half-baked intel, Lieutenant Commander, you'll be filing logistics reports for the rest of your career. I pulled up the next slide, a map layered with old operational data from 2005 and current satellite imagery. The overlap was striking. This, I said, pointing to a cluster of coordinates, is where the Echo team went dark. What we didn't know until now is that the signal didn't just disappear. It was redirected. Redirected how? A logistics officer asked. Through a relay station, military grade. Someone intercepted the distress call and someone made the decision not to forward it. Thorne's face was unreadable. That's a serious accusation. It's a data point, I corrected. Kessler stood. This is nonsense. Signals fail! Equipment malfunctions! That's not a cover-up, that's war! Then explain the relay log. What relay log? I tapped my keyboard. A new document appeared on the screen. timestamps, signal paths, and at the bottom, highlighted in screaming yellow, override. Thorn J code Delta 9. The room didn't erupt with noise, but with a tension so thick it felt like the walls were pressing inward. Thorn didn't move, didn't blink. Kessler looked between us, confusion warring with alarm. "That's fabricated," Kessler stammered, but his voice lacked conviction. "It's archived," I said. "Time-stamped, authenticated, and it's been sitting in a government server for 2 decades. Thorn finally spoke, his voice low and dangerous. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about," I countered, my voice cutting through the silence. "I know that Sea Dragon was abandoned. And I know that someone made the call to leave those men behind." "That's enough!" Thorn stood, slamming his hand on the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "This meeting is over. Lieutenant Commander Vance, you're out of line. Consider yourself under review." I didn't move. "Admiral, the data! I said we're done!" Thorn was ice. 2 stone-faced military police officers strode in behind him. Thorn stopped inches from me. "Lieutenant Commander Vance," he announced, his voice steady. "You are hereby relieved of duty pending investigation into unauthorized access of classified materials. Surrender your credentials and devices immediately." I looked down at my laptop. The extraction bar for the full files was at 73%. So close. "I need to save my work first, sir. Protocol requires—" "I don't care about protocol," Thorn interrupted. "Hand it over!" My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could feel the entire room watching. Carter was frozen 2 seats over. Reese reappeared in the doorway, arms crossed. The extraction bar ticked upward. 79%. 85%? 91%. Thorn's voice dropped to a lethal whisper. "You have 30 seconds or I'm having these officers confiscate that device by force." My heart hammered. I ran the scenario, comply and lose everything, or hold my ground and risk my career on a file that might be incomplete. 4, 4, 4, breathe. 7%, 99%, Thorn reached for the laptop lid. My hand shot out, not aggressive, just fast, hitting the space bar. The screen flared to life. Extraction successful. Files ready. I hit enter. The files began uploading. Not to my hard drive, to the main command server. The one everyone in the room, everyone in the building could access. Thorn's face went from white to crimson. "What did you just do?" I looked up, my voice calm and clear. "I saved my work, sir." "As protocol requires." The room exploded, not with shouting, but with movement. Officers grabbed their tablets. File names popped up, Sea Dragon full relay log, Echo 1, extraction denied. Override authorization, Thorn J, shut it down! Shut it all down! Thorn lunged for the server control panel, but Carter was faster. His fingers flew across his keyboard, locking the files, making them read-only. "Too late, Admiral." "It's already distributed. Every terminal in this building has access." Thorn turned on Carter, fury blazing. "You're finished, Lieutenant." "Maybe," Carter said, his voice shaking, but he didn't back down. "But the truth is out." I closed my laptop and stood. "I'll surrender my device now, Admiral." "But the data is on the server, authenticated, time-stamped, available for review." Thorn didn't move. He stood there, trapped, knowing that if he hit the network lockdown button now, it would confirm everything. "This isn't over, Lieutenant Commander." "No, sir," I said quietly. "It's just beginning." As the MPs escorted me toward the door, Reese stepped into my path. "Admiral," he said, looking at me, then at Thorn, "I request permission to review the files." "Denied." "With all due respect, sir," Reese held his ground, "if these files are authenticated, we have an obligation to investigate. My orders are to ensure operational integrity. If there's evidence of a compromised mission, I need to see it." Thorn glared, but he was outnumbered. He conceded through clenched teeth. "Fine, review the files." "But this stays internal." Reese nodded and turned to me just as the MPs led me out. In his eyes, I saw not pity but recognition. I had just traded my career for my father's memory. In the small, windowless holding room, I didn't pace. I just sat breathing. 444. 40 minutes later, Reese walked in alone. "They're going to crucify you," he said, sitting down. "Knox is calling in every favor." Kessler is drafting a formal complaint. By tomorrow, you'll be facing charges. Expected, I replied. I reviewed the files. The relay logs, the override codes, the timestamps, Reese said, leaning forward. It's all there. Thorne intercepted the distress signal. He chose not to forward it. He paused, his voice dropping. But I don't know why. Thorne is a lot of things, but he's not a coward. He wouldn't abandon men without a reason. Maybe the reason was more important than the men. Reese's jaw tightened. Your father was leading a Black Ops sweep. Sea Dragon wasn't just reconnaissance. It was an extraction, high-value asset. Someone Thorne's superiors wanted very badly. If Thorne pulled the plug, it's because the agency told him to, or the mission went sideways in a way that couldn't go public. Carter burst in, tablet in hand. Commander, you need to see this. Carter pulled up a document on the tablet. Operation Sea Dragon, classified eyes only. Reese read aloud. Primary objective, extract asset code named Phoenix. Secondary objective, secure intelligence package related to regional supply chain disruptions. Tertiary objective, eliminate hostile presence without detection. Not standard, I said, pointing to a line near the bottom. Look at the authorization chain. That's not SEAL Command. That's agency. Sea Dragon was a joint CIA SEAL op, Reese finished quietly. Which means Thorne was caught between two chains of command. When the mission went sideways, someone had to take the fall. Carter scrolled down. Post-mission analysis filed 6 months later. The intelligence package was compromised. Hostile forces intercepted the team before extraction. Echo 1 made the call to scatter. Last confirmed transmission was a distress signal requesting immediate evac. Signal was acknowledged but not acted upon. By Thorne, Reese confirmed. I took a deep breath. The decryption pulled more than just the relay logs. There's a beacon, Reese blinked. A what? A locator beacon, embedded in the original distress signal. Military grade, the kind that stays active for decades if it has a power source. Carter's eyes widened. You're saying Echo 1 is still transmitting? I'm saying the beacon is still transmitting. Weak signal, intermittent but consistent. I've been tracking it for 3 months. Reese pulled out his encrypted phone. I need immediate access to satellite imaging for the following coordinates. We'll have imaging in 20 minutes. If there's something out there, we'll see it. 15 minutes later, Carter's tablet chimed. He pulled up the feed. The small display in the holding room flickered to life, showing a high-resolution image of dense jungle terrain, the Spratly Shelf. In the center, barely visible through the canopy, a makeshift camouflage structure. And next to it, blinking faintly on the infrared overlay, a heat signature. Small, steady, active. Carter zoomed in. The signature resolved into a pulse pattern. 4 seconds on, 4 seconds off, 4 seconds on. My breath hitched. The same 4-4-4 rhythm my father taught me. That's impossible, Thorne's voice thundered from the doorway. He had returned, flanked by MPs. He stared at the screen, his face draining of color. The mission was 20 years ago. Someone survived, Reese said, his voice hard, unyielding. And you left him there. Admiral Thorne, I stepped forward, my voice steady, an iron spike driving into the room. I'm formally requesting permission to lead an extraction team. The beacon is active. The coordinates are confirmed. Denied! Thorne's voice cracked just slightly, showing the terror underneath. That area is hostile. It's a suicide mission. It's a rescue mission. It's a fantasy. Thorne pointed at the screen. That beacon could be automated. It could be a trap. I am not sending men into an operational black hole based on wishful thinking. Reese stepped between us. Admiral, this isn't your call anymore. The evidence suggests you have a personal stake in keeping this buried. You're compromised. Standard protocol requires an independent review board. Thorne's eyes flashed, his hand moving toward his phone. Reese's hand moved to his sidearm. Don't, Admiral, Reese said quietly. Don't make this worse. Thorne hesitated. His hand dropped. His shoulders sagged. For the first time, he looked defeated. He was my friend, Vance. We served together. I didn't want to leave him. But you did, I whispered. I had orders. You had a choice. No, I didn't, Thorne countered. And neither will you. When the agency comes calling, they'll give you the same choice I had. Sacrifice one to save many. And you'll make the same decision. I'm not you, I said. Thorne almost smiled. Not yet. He turned and walked out, his shoulders bent. Reese turned to one of the MPs. Contact Captain Rodriguez. Tell her I need an extraction team prepped and ready to deploy within 6 hours. Full combat load, jungle environment. I'm taking operational authority under emergency protocols. Anyone who has a problem with that can file a complaint after we bring Echo 1 home. We moved fast. 6 hours later, we lifted off in an unmarked Black Hawk. Reese was in charge. Carter was on comms. I was strapped into the seat, my rifle across my lap. We had an agency liaison, Callahan, a mid-50s field officer, dressed in contractor casual, sitting across from me. He was silent for the first hour. Then he leaned forward. You know this is a mistake, right? Necessary for who? For your closure? Or for the 6 men who might die trying to rescue a ghost? He's not a ghost, I said, not looking at him. You want to hate Thorne? Go ahead. Callahan's eyes were hard. But he made the hard call. The difference is, I'm making the call to bring him home. Even if it means risking 8 more lives because you need to close a wound that's been open for 20 years? That's selfish, Vance. I finally looked at him. The difference, Callahan, is that I am making the call to bring him home. 2 hours later, we were on the ground. Jungle, thick and suffocating. No backup, no support. Reese took point. Carter tracked the beacon. We reached the coordinates 90 minutes later. The structure was exactly where the satellite showed it, and outside, sitting on a fallen log, was a man. Thin, weathered, clothes patched 100 times. But his posture was straight, alert. He was holding the small device, the beacon. He looked up as we approached, his eyes sharp, clear, and alive. Reese raised a hand. Echo 1. The man stood slowly, his gaze lingering on me. Then, very quietly, he spoke. Took you long enough. My knees nearly buckled. That voice, older, rougher, but unmistakable. I walked forward. Dad. He didn't smile, just disbelief mixed with relief. He lifted his sleeve, revealing a faded trident tattoo with the word Echo and a string of coordinates. The same coordinates tattooed on my arm. You got the ink, kid, he said. I got the ink. He pulled me into a hug that was anything but gentle, a grip that said, I'm real. I'm here. I'm alive. Sir, we need to move, Reese urged. My father released me, nodding. Understood. But there's something you need to know. I'm not alone. There are 3 others, Chinese defectors, high-value assets. They've been here as long as I have. He gestured to the structure. Thorne didn't pull the extraction because of me. He pulled it because of them. Bringing them out meant exposing agency operations in this region. So they left us all. Callahan stepped forward, his face hardening. This changes everything. If we extract Chinese nationals, it's an international incident. The agency will disavow. My father looked at him. Then I guess you've got a choice to make, Callahan. The same one Thorne had 20 years ago. Sacrifice the few to protect the many or do the right thing. We extracted them all. The flight back was quiet, the silence of a mission completed. We landed at 0700 hours. A crowd was waiting, MPs, medics, and standing at the front, pale but composed, Admiral Thorne. He watched as my father climbed out of the Black Hawk. The 2 men stared at each other, 20 years of guilt and anger compressed into a single look. I'm sorry, Thorne finally whispered. My father nodded. I know. Thorne was led away by MPs. Formal charges pending. 3 days later, I was cleared of all charges. I turned down the promotion and took a position training new legacy operators, teaching them what I learned, that patience is a weapon. And sometimes the mission isn't about glory. It's about bringing people home. My father retired. He gave me a new challenge coin, a trident, the word Echo, and underneath, legacy. It's a heavy legacy, I said, turning the coin over. It is, he replied, but you carried it well. One evening, I got an encrypted message. A new network, deeper, darker. Someone was asking for extraction. Codename, Phantom. My father leaned back. You going to answer? I looked out at the ocean, the horizon. Not tonight. Tonight we rest, he nodded. And tomorrow? I slipped the coin into my pocket, the metal cool against my hand. Tomorrow, I said, meeting his eyes, we hunt. So tell me, what would you have done? Would you have hit that save button and uploaded those files knowing you were sacrificing your entire career? Or would you have played it safe, accepting the official story that some secrets are best left buried? Let me know in the comments below. The biggest moral debates always happen when the uniform comes off. And hey, if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next when we go after Phantom.